It's a very positive change that will affect the whole nation. I think he will win the next election.
See
And
that?
I think he will win the next election.
Right.
I think he will be president. And it's a homecoming. There's a sense of completion. It has to happen. It has to happen that way.
You're giving me goosebumps.
It will happen because there will be a meeting that will take place. Something is going to change financially. It seems as though someone is going to offer the Marcos family an opportunity to come to an agreement about an idea they have, and it secures the long-term financial security of the nation. And he's thinking prudently at this point, and he sees that as an opportunity he can take and run with all the way across the finishing line, because this agreement will be so popular with the people. There'll never be a better time for him to run for office. I'm hearing dancing in the street. There will be a redistribution of wealth, and people will be dancing in the street. I think that there has been a family feeling, perhaps, that they made terrible mistakes, maybe in terms of who they trusted or who they had around them. They really shouldn't beat themselves up. Things have happened the way they had to happen, sadly, but everything's going to be okay. It's going to turn out okay. Mm-hmm. Their birth dates will do is remind people. It'll awaken people's minds. They will remember and it seems to stir up some energy that get things moving in a very positive way.
And actually, September as well is the birthday of not only the father but Bong Marcos' birth month.
Wonderful. There is so much love for these people in the Philippines. I would have to relate it to whatever the process of assessment is. So if it's a legal or financial issue, it's being looked at now, and the outcome will be a positive one.
Right.
And I feel that's quite close. And it will be so good for him because people aren't seeing things clearly.
Right.
This will allow them to see things clearly.
Good morning, Rosa. It's morning here in where I am in the USA, in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. My name is Francis Tanseco, and I'm a nurse, or I used to be a nurse in the UK. I'm now a nurse in the USA, and also I doubles up with doing painting. I had exhibits in England before. I've been featured in Power ng Pinoy International for GMA International, and also in UNTV in London. I've been also doing lots of music, and I have created a musical about Imelda Romualdez Marcos called A Mother's Soul, and I'm in the process of completing another musical about an actress from the Philippines, Nora Honor. But this video presentation we're doing is about sort of questions about the political landscape in the Philippines. So introduce yourself first, Rosa, then we can proceed.
Always a pleasure. And you were traveling since yesterday when we spoke?
Oh yeah, I've been traveling for about 7 hours. It was really tiring.
Oh.
7 long hours of driving, and I get so tired. But then again, there you go. I rested really well overnight, so I'm good.
Good. And I think we get so much good energy from our meetings. You probably feel even more recharged. So my name is Rosa Montague. I'm a psychic, tarot reader, clairvoyant, spiritual and planetary healer, light worker. So I'm politically active up to a point, but I believe that all the power we need has to come from within.
Yes. And how long have you been doing this now?
Between 15 and 20 years professionally. Before that, I had an interest, but I was too shy to do it for anybody other than family and friends.
Yes. And I remember our first session. You made a session about just after my mom died in 2019. Yeah. As it happens, for some synchronistic reason, I just found the videos because I thought I lost all of the videos. I was looking for those videos and I thought I lost them completely, and I thought, okay, they're gone. Finally, I don't know. Okay, so forget about it. And then just this morning, I found them. So I was waiting for you. I uploaded them. So I'm gonna give you the link for those as well, because you were very spot on. I was so crazy, you know.
Thank you. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling to get it right, to be able to relay information that can help other people, give them insight that when they can't find it themselves. So. And that was a beautiful session we had after your mum died, because she came through so powerfully, didn't she?
Yeah, and you gave me a sort of a healing process as well. You gave me a was it Mother Earth healing that you gave me?
Yeah, it's a meditation. So I kind of enhanced one of Marion Green's techniques that she outlines in a book called The Elements of Natural Magic, and I just embellish that. But I find that often when people are in pain, even when they're not, I can take them through this meditation, and it's a shamanic journey. So it connects them to the earth goddess, right. And that's home. You know, you always have a place to rest in that cave. You can always go and sit by her fire, and everybody comes out of that feeling better. Yes,
and our conversation yesterday, which I have posted in other groups, and for this particular one, I'm gonna place it in a different set of groups, just because of the topic we're talking about. But yesterday was really beautiful, a conversation. It was so. Yes. I was listening to it as I was driving, and I thought this came out really naturally, spontaneous, and so beautiful.
Yeah, it was. But it always has been when we connected.
Yes.
We have a powerful energetic connection, and I think we work well together.
Oh, let me just remind the audience as well that Miss Rosa Montague is a recipient of the annual Peace Award that I'm giving away, which is called the Flower of Life Peace Award, in which I have given a Ron Van Dyke as well and several other people. And so just to let the audience know about that. And today's conversation is, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say it was a great honor to receive that award, Francis.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And today's conversation is a little bit controversial, to say the least. So I have my own biases because I'm from the Philippines. I'm going to talk about the Marcoses of the Philippines in this video. And I thought if the best person to really get a sort of a reading is from somebody outside of the country, because at least you would not necessarily have the biases that I have.
Yeah, I think it should be interesting. So I have a bit of background information that you've sent to me. I haven't looked at it too closely, and I haven't looked at it since you sent it, because I thought it might be good to look at this with a fresh pair of eyes, right, and then go back and read that later.
Fantastic. Fantastic. To be honest with you, I'm sort of a loss today because I'm not sure how we're going to get started. Maybe I'm excited and nervous and all of those at the same time.
So give me a summary of what kind of information you're looking for, and then I think we might start with general reading, which should throw up anything relevant. We'll try it that way, and then we can move on to specific questions.
Oh, all right. So the general information will be like this. 2022 will be coming soon, which will be the next Philippine general election in terms of presidency. And of course, with this COVID thing going on, as it is in the US, like rioting, it's also sort of like starting to happen. To me, that's sort of an organized, coordinated event going on as well. So it's happening in the Philippines also at the same time. And we have a president who's sort of an elderly, to be honest, and he's very much loved, but at the same time, you know, those in the other political fence is really angry at him. And I'm very much more interested with Bong Marcos, which who ran for vice president of the Philippines in 2016. Unfortunately, with the Smartmatic as it is, you know, having the same manipulation they're doing in America and other countries in which they were already banned in most countries as well. They're allegedly being, you know, questions because the night before the election, Bong Marcos was winning as a vice president with some 1 million ahead of the other person who's to be honest with you is an unknown entity politically and coming from a region wherein 5 other people are running from the same region. So in Philippines, the way it works, if you're from one region, then that region would tend to support you.
Right.
So this is the landscape we're looking at. So perhaps my next question, maybe my first question would be, would there be an election in 2022 in the Philippines?
Okay. I'm wondering whether let's do a general reading first and see what comes up.
Oh, please, excellent, brilliant. I would, if my sort of a questioning or what have you is sort of a, not necessarily within a proper remit of what we're talking about, then by all means, so sort of direct me.
Okay. No, that's interesting. What I'm getting here is, so I'm kind of looking at the political climate now, and what I see is that in the past you've had a man who has been influential and the kind of guy that probably liked the sound of his own voice a bit, but when he had a decision to make, he would think things through quite carefully because he liked to be fair, or at least he liked to be seen to be fair. I think there's a lot of good teamwork going on, but at the same time, I see a stalemate or a deadlock, as though neither side's prepared to give way and they are equally determined. I also see, yeah?
Yeah, you're talking about a man, is that somebody in power or it's just?
I think he's been in power in the past, or he's been in an influential position in the past.
Okay.
There are certainly issues that need to be resolved, but there are people working to resolve them, even though there are attempts to derail, is what I'm hearing there, clairvoyantly. There are attempts to derail any efforts made for the general good of the people.
Right. Are we talking about a person in the past who's still alive or dead?
Are you referring to what I've just said about outside interference? Yeah, does that? So, what I'm saying is, so the man I described to you was a man of influence in the past. Whilst I still feel that there are a lot of good people working as a great team, there are attempts at interference.
Right.
Both from within and from outside.
Right.
I think there are concerns about finances at the moment. I think there's quite a lot of dark, negative energy. And I think that it feels almost karmic in nature.
Wow.
So there's a residual darkness there that needs clearing. But at the moment, I think funding or financial issues will be temporary. But at the moment, I think all of this is stopping new ideas from coming forward. Because I feel there's a lot in terms of new energy and resources and policies and procedures that can be implemented to improve the lot of the people.
Right.
But it's though they're caged in at the moment.
Right. It's so weird as you are describing those events without naming names, sort of I'm not sure, maybe my bias is sort of giving it faces and names and dates and all that. And if that faces and names and events in the past that is playing in my head is true and real, but it comes across as is that you're really spot on, including the current situation with how you describe about interference and financial issues and all that. And it's just I was having literally a goosebumps as you were describing this. I'm not sure whether should I give a names or interpretation of what you have said, but I'm sure maybe our audience would understand what we're talking about.
Okay, I don't mind either way. But just to continue for the moment, there is actually grief. First, I can feel so much sorrow bottled up that is still in the hearts and minds of many of the people. And I think these things will have to be aired. They'll have to be brought out into the open and have the light of truth shone on them before there can be healing.
Right.
I also get the impression that whilst some people have made all kinds of sacrifices for the greater good and are still blaming themselves because things didn't go as well as they hoped, actually everything is happening in divine timing. Because of the wrongdoing of the past, the future will be built on much firmer foundations.
Oh my God. It's crazy because I'm having continuous goosebumps as you describe all this. The grief, I suppose, happened during the 2016 when in my bias thinking, I mean, I'd like to think that I'm not biased, to be honest with you, because I have looked at the facts and all that. But I'm just saying that just because, I'm on that side of the person. But then again, just all the evidences points out to it that he's actually the person who won, and that sort of made a lot of people really, really angry, and
and that hasn't healed because a lot of it is still buried. There's a lot more needs to come out. There will be many talks. I feel that there are people who really need to sit down and have it's cards on the table time. And there's a great deal of healing energy can come from that. But I have some interesting characters here, and I'll go through these, and then we can move on to your questions.
Okay.
2 women. One of them is a mature woman, and I'm going to be brutally honest, she's an absolute dragon. She needs to know everything that's going on, and she wants to be in complete control. If she doesn't, all hell breaks loose. And more often,
she doesn't what?
If she thinks she doesn't, that things are being kept from her, then she'll create a huge fuss. She causes a storm, but I feel she is the mother of someone in a position of power. And just when you said the grief going back to 2016, I'm also getting that actually 2012 and 13 were also relevant.
Oh my God, you're crazy. You're so spot on.
The other woman is maybe younger. I'm looking at somebody maybe late 30s, early 40s, and she's also very cruel and domineering. So on a good day, she's a bit of a drama queen, but on a bad day, she has her head so far up her own backside that the whole world can see she's wrong, and she still knows she's right.
Is this woman sort of being pushed to run for higher office or not?
She would like to. She's certainly very ambitious.
Right. So when I say higher office, that means number one. That means the presidency.
I'm not sure, Francis. I'm not getting. I feel that most of her work is done on the sidelines. I feel that she manipulates others. I think she would have to feel very confident. She would have to feel that her success is guaranteed before she would go for the top job.
Right. I feel like you are talking about. I do know exactly who they are you're talking about, but I just want to make sure that this younger woman, is she related by blood to the older woman or not? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Oh my God. Should I name names?
Yeah, and well, just before you do, I mean, there are 2 or 3 male characters here, but the one that stands out for me, and when I get this card, honestly, this guy is...
I cannot see it in the camera. Okay.
This guy is completely narcissistic, very controlling, very manipulative, very self-centered. Worst possible scenario when I see that card, I hate it when it comes up in people's readings. Well, I don't, because it gives me the option to warn them. But worst possible scenario with that card is that we're talking about somebody who is capable of violence. But in any case, he's a bully, and I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Is this somebody who is actually in power now, or trying to be in power?
Yes, I feel he is. I think he makes a lot of noise, and I think he's always up to mischief.
Right. I think that guy is name starts with the letter C.
Right. This guy is medium height, slightly rounded, thick head of hair. I'm rubbish at judging ages. I'm guessing 40s. He's a menace. I think many people don't see clearly who he really is, so he has the potential to do much damage.
Yes, he's definitely this guy whose letter C, whom the President Duterte has unfortunately given his trust, but it seems like his actions is that of a person who's giving the president a kiss of a Judas.
Yes, that is exactly the kind of thing he would do.
Yes, he is.
But there is a big positive change coming. I'm talking huge, and this change is imminent. So I'm talking hours or days rather than weeks or months.
Why are you talking about this change imminent in terms of the whole nation?
Yeah. And it will be like finding a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think because you have good teamwork going on, and because people will begin to sit down and talk, out of that comes the opportunity to take a huge leap forward.
Are you talking about a possible death of a president?
You know, the one thing I won't accept from my guides is information about somebody's passing. I don't feel that I can or should take that responsibility. Every psychic can get it wrong. Sometimes.
Fair enough. Let's not do that, and I do apologize for that. I'm just curious whether, because you said imminent, sort of a, does that mean sort of an imminent danger or something for the nation?
Something very positive. It's a very positive change that will affect the whole nation.
Okay.
And when I say imminently, I mean could be before the end of today, but in any case within the next few days. This is not something that's weeks or months away. It looks to me as though there's going to be a breakthrough of some sort.
That's interesting. I would several personalities and events is playing in my head, but I'm gonna leave it to later, or maybe for the people to decipher what that is.
Well, might be just interesting to sit back and watch and see what happens.
Yes. So far with everything that you have described, you describe them from an from an outsider looking in, and me coming from that inside looking out, meaning reading what you're saying in general terms, I could actually relate all those that you just mentioned in real time and in real person and real individuals who are actually spot on with your descriptions.
That's good. That's good. Wonderful feedback too. I always say positive feedback adds joy to the work I already love doing. So, like I said before, it's a wonderful feeling to know that you're getting the right information that may be of help. And the information I got there came purely from the tarot cards and what I was hearing clairvoyantly to help fill in the gaps.
Right.
So, what's your first question?
Fantastic. Well, maybe because I'm doing this reading for the Marcos family, maybe I would like to ask about the son of the former president, Ferdinand Marcos, who is his namesake, by his nickname is Bong Marcos. What do you see of him in terms of energies?
Let me have a look.
The election will be coming in 2022, and there is also an ongoing case at the Supreme Court of the Philippines with his fight for the vice presidency winning. So it has not been decided upon, but it's ongoing.
What a mixture. I think he is really feeling the need to be in charge of his own domain at the moment. That can be personal life or political life. He either needs to be in control of his own environment or he's needing his own space. And I suspect a bit of both, because I think there are things that he's running out of energy with. It doesn't matter how much you want to believe in something, you're struggling to decide whether it's really worth any more of your time and effort. I do feel that he will have an argument with somebody if he hasn't already. And it's that situation where you tell somebody exactly what you think of them. You blow a fuse and it all comes out. He does have a lot of support. He has people around him that he can feel relaxed and content with. And that's nurturing for the soul. It's like that meme that floats around Facebook that says, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. He's benefiting a lot from being around people who love him and accept him for who he is and care about his welfare. And I feel there's a huge bubble of protective energy around him. There's also physical protection around him. There are a lot of people looking out for his welfare. And he has almost complete happiness within him, within his grasp. I feel that there is a mature woman around him. She's used to being in control, but then she's used to handling responsibility. And she's a no-nonsense kind of person. Doesn't suffer fools gladly, so she either likes people or she leaves them alone. She certainly likes him. She loves him. She's very supportive of him. Is this his mother? Yes. He needs to be at peace within himself.
Right.
And he isn't quite there yet. I think there's been so much going on. It's like how he feels one day or one week is different to how he feels another. So there's been some inner turmoil that he's needing to resolve. Excuse me. Did one of their family pass over with a chest condition? A respiratory condition?
Well, he recently. Well, that's weird because you mentioned that, because he was recently been diagnosed and survived the COVID-19. And in fact, if you see his older photos of and the current one after the COVID-19, he's sort of lost a lot of weight, and you look like he's almost like one of those who survived death, basically.
Wonderful. But I have a gentleman with me in spirit, strongly connected to him, who passed over with a respiratory condition. Usually, I get a strong indication of whether it stems from the heart or whether it's an industrial lung disease. I'm not getting that here.
Yeah.
But what this gentleman is saying is he was with him at that time because he knew how worried he was for his own health.
Right.
He needs to recharge his batteries and have some peace of mind in order to get rid of the last of that fear. He's concerned that it's weakened him. And he feels that he has enemies that are all too ready to use that to their advantage.
Right. Well,
I want to put him on a beach somewhere to just soak up the sun and the energy from the ocean. That's really what he needs.
So he needs to be on a beach and maybe soak up his feet on a water and breathe the air of the seaside and all that.
Yes. Yeah. And he will come back refreshed and ready for what's next. I have to tell you, I'm delighted to see the card of adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So what that's saying is, because I can see a lot of destructive conflict around him, not the kind where you have a big argument and it clears the air. This is just bickering for the sake of it. It's not helping anybody and it's not resolving anything.
Right.
And these are the kind of things that drain good people's energy.
What is that card again?
But, well, I'm coming to that next. So this card is a card of adjustment in Crowley's pack.
Yes.
For me, what that's saying is that there's a process of assessment going on around him. This is usually something quite formal, so legal or financial issues may be waiting for the results of something. When that process is complete, decisions will be made in his favor, or the outcome will be what he wants it to be.
Oh my God.
And that has to do with now, hasn't it? When I'm not looking at the next election here, I feel that this is something being resolved now, or very soon.
You mean now, as in this moment until the next election cycle, or any of those?
I would have to relate it to whatever the process of assessment is. So if it's a legal or financial issue, it's being looked at now, and the outcome will be a positive one.
Right.
And I feel that's quite close. And it will be so good for him because people aren't seeing things clearly.
Right.
This will allow them to see things clearly. And the narcissistic guy that I mentioned before is doing his best to make sure the outcome isn't a good one. He won't succeed. He will fail.
That will be that C guy, the letter C guy. But
Yeah.
when you say assessment and when you say legal or financial, the way I don't know, obviously his personal affairs, but from an outside, I know for a fact that there is a legal case for his fight for the vice presidency, which is the Supreme Court of the Philippines. And that's the only thing I could sort of connect to that observation or to that reading of your card.
Has he been? I think you may even have mentioned this to me. Has he been accused of something? Have there been attempts to destroy his character?
Well, the whole family practically been accused of all sorts of things since they've been removed forcibly from the presidential house in 1986. So they've been the whole family almost got almost 1,000 cases throughout the years, and most of which really has been they've been acquitted from it, and most of it obviously are financial and money in nature.
Yeah. Well, I feel that there is some news about to break, or a decision that's about to be made that is really going to show things in a different light.
Well,
allow a lot of people to wake up where before they've been sleeping.
That's interesting that you said you love the people to wake up because they've been sleeping. Is that correct?
Yeah, where people have been kind of blinkered or blinded and unaware.
Yeah, it's interesting that you have mentioned that because there is the so-called last will and testament of the former president, wherein the a lot of his fortunes and money and riches and wealth are to be given to the whole nation. That's not happening just because of the the people who are in power who's sort of trying to stop that.
Yes, but they won't succeed for much longer. And does the man himself, does he have, or is there funds tied up that he hasn't been able to have access to?
Yes, it's been that's completely correct. I'm not gonna mention any country or any names, but that is completely a correct observation, and that's been sort of a struggle because that wealth that belongs to the family has been frozen by powers from outside.
I feel that some of that at least is about to be released.
Oh my God, that's great.
And I feel that this will give him peace of mind, not only for personal reasons, but because it will give him funds for his election campaign. And is there family jewelry that has been confiscated?
Oh yes, definitely, most definitely.
And
there's a lot.
Would be the lady who would be really delighted to see some of that back.
Wow. You know, I have met Imelda Marcus and many times, and I so happen to have that opportunity to get to ask her about those jewelries, and she said that they both them with their own personal wealth, and she was planning to, because she was buying jewelries from old royalties in Europe and pretty much, you know, from people with historical significance. And she said that she was inspired, so to speak, from the Tower of London, the Queen Elizabeth collection of jewelries, and she wanted to have that sort of building in the Philippines as well, wherein she would put those as wealth of the nation.
Yes, that's exactly. I'm seeing her tears of joy because she is so delighted to see them again, but she doesn't want them for herself.
Yes.
I'm not saying she wouldn't wear them, she might well do, but she wants them to be for the benefit of everybody, in terms of having beautiful things to look at and something that gives the nation status, so that it feels it has status.
You just practically rewarded what she has told me. I don't know why you said that, but it's giving me goosebumps, because she said exactly that. Basically, my understanding of what she told me, obviously I cannot recall it word for word now, but she wanted to have a collective consciousness of the Filipino people to feel good about themselves by looking at beauty and true and good.
Oh my goodness, her energy she has the most beautiful energy. You're absolutely right about her. She really has the most beautiful energy. It's as though she wants to pick the country up and carry it to better.
And she has been doing that single-handedly for over 30 years, despite the whole world giving her a really, really bad name, and they doing a demolition job on them and vilifying her and calling her all sorts of things, and making her a laughing stock of the country at some point. And she's sort of she said she doesn't feel bad about anybody, and she feels that she doesn't need to forgive anyone, because she never hated anyone in the first place.
Yeah, she renews herself from within. She recharges from within. And she knows that anybody who falls out of faith, as you and I know, anybody who doesn't do as it's told by the Western world will be demonized, as in Fidel Castro. Mm-hmm. Anybody who dares to stand up to Western powers will be put in that position.
And she was in that position for many, many, many years, just because after the husband died, the former president, she has to fight the superpower single-handedly, and I felt like she has kept a light, or a light lit throughout those darkness in the history of the Philippines.
I would agree. It's like keeping a candle burning, so that spark of energy is always there,
Yes.
ready to be reignited whenever the opportunity arises. What do you want to ask me next?
Well, I'm interested because you mentioned about the imminent thing coming. I'm still wanting to concentrate on the case of Bong Marcos, whether he would win the vice presidency, which is at the Supreme Court of the Philippines, because it has been lodged in the court from after 2016, and it's now 4 years on, and it has still no resolution. And you have 2 years left. If he ever wins this, that means he's gonna be in that power. In the vice presidency for less than 2 years. It's actually 1 year and a bit. Whether that's still gonna come to fruition or not.
Well, look at that. But I am getting that there is a positive window of opportunity for him between July and September this year.
Right.
I think there have been temporary delays and interruptions that have been irritating, but sometimes we're held back a little bit for a reason, and it's to make sure we can see the bigger picture, or that we have all the pieces of the jigsaw. So but I think he's tired, and he struggles putting the past behind him at times. That can make him a little emotionally insecure. He tends to shut down. He becomes emotionally unavailable when he's feeling the strain. I think probably the people around him have been suffering because he's been struggling to deal with things. But yes, I think that he, and I also think he's been obsessing about this a bit. He would have benefited from switching his focus to something else, and letting, sometimes you have to get out of your own way. So I can put your order into the universe, law of attraction. Does he have a female around him who was very superficial and materialistic? Has to be the center of attention, and it's all about appearances.
I'm not sure of that. If there is, I'm not sure whether that would be. I'd rather not say anything in that case.
That's fine. For all I feel it's all about status with her, and she can turn on people in an instant.
This is a different woman that you mentioned about earlier. When you mentioned about an older woman and a younger woman. This is a different one. I feel that she's connected to him personally.
Okay. And whilst at first glance this might look like a negative thing, it's actually not, for two reasons. One, because she's capable of giving him the kick he needs when he's not thinking clearly, or when he loses heart, when he loses interest.
Right.
Also, because of the way her mind works, she immediately spots dishonesty and manipulation. So she's protecting him.
Right.
It's like she antagonizes him at times, but that's when he needs to wake up or he needs to get moving. And she has his back. She's watching out for him.
Well, that could very well be the person in my head, but I think I'm gonna play safe on that one.
I don't blame you, because I'm always honest, but I haven't been very complimentary. So
no, I don't you. The great thing about you is you're an outsider looking in, and you didn't have the influences of growing up in the Philippines and being consciously fed this information. So in fact, you know nothing about this until I mentioned it to you and asked you to have this session, and I'm very, very grateful that you honored this request.
And I'm grateful to you for the opportunity, because this is interesting stuff, and it's also promoting my work. Mm-hmm. And if it helps anybody, but in answer to your question, yes, I think he will get the vice presidency, and I think these things are moving very, very quickly.
It's interesting that you mentioned the months July and September as a month window of opportunity, because the month of July is actually the month of her mother's birthday month, Imelda Marcos, and September is actually the month where is the birthday month of his father, who died on September as well.
Okay, that is going to.
It's so weird that you specifically mentioned those months, because you would have not known that July is Imelda Marcos' birthday. September.
But I feel this is a 3-month period.
And not only
I think what their birth dates will do is remind people. It'll awaken people's minds. They will remember and it seems to stir up some energy that get things moving in a very positive way.
And actually, September as well is the birthday of not only the father but Bong Marcos' birth month.
Wonderful. There is so much love for these people in the Philippines, and you will see an outpouring. It actually puts me in mind of the grief that was felt in the UK when Princess Diana was murdered.
Right.
So I feel that there'll be a great show of emotion for them.
I sort of don't understand what, when you say grief, are you talking about a passing or something?
No. I mean, people's emotions, the emotions of the whole of the UK were almost palpable.
Okay.
So good. Not as intense as that, but I feel the poignant memories, those birth dates will bring those memories to the forefront of people's minds.
I see.
And there will be a lot of positive energy, a lot of positive emotion, a lot of love. So it's like, excuse me, it's like you or I putting a request out on Facebook for healing.
Right. And
we know what happens when we do that. There's an army steps in, and you actually feel that energy.
Right.
And this energy will act in a very positive way, and in propelling them forward, their interests forward.
Right. Brilliant. That is really interesting. So far, I can think of all the. I tried not to mention names and events and all that, but everything is so spot on, and I'm sure the people who's watching this back in the Philippines would completely understand every single thing that you're mentioning about. I'd like to go back to the two ladies that you mentioned earlier, the elder one and the younger one. This younger one, I'd like to ask if this younger one would run for president comes 2022.
Let me try and clarify that. Do they normally celebrate those birthdays publicly?
Oh, definitely. The Marcoses does celebrate that publicly, and they share that their birthdays with the people who votes for them or supporting them and who love them. Especially Imelda Marcos, because she's been in the consciousness for many years.
Yeah. I think there's actually a fair bit of appreciation for her. I think some people appreciate the works that she does or who she is, maybe. Right. And I feel that she's been waiting for funding. She's been waiting to feel secure financially. That's coming. I also feel it's like she's going to get the go-ahead. Right, hang on, one of two things is happening. So I've got the card of adjustment again. She's either waiting for funds to be delivered that would put her in a position to be able to run for office, or she's waiting from the go-ahead. She's waiting for the go-ahead from a person or from a body of people, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But she's not confident.
Right. Interesting. You
And
are.
there's a big part of her thinking she's okay where she is. And I feel one of the main reasons is that there is a man whose support she would want if she was going to run for office, and she doesn't feel she has it. She doesn't feel that he's empathic towards her needs.
Say that again, or can you rephrase that in another way? There's a man who what?
There is a man around her whose support, whose vote of confidence she would want.
Oh my God.
And she doesn't feel that she has it. This is a man who comes across as a good manager, good organizer, knows exactly what he wants and where he's going, or he thinks he does, and he doesn't really care about other people's approval, but he can be very abrupt and insensitive to the needs of other people. He lacks empathy.
That is crazy. I wonder whether I should name names. What do you suggest? But I felt like maybe I'll just talk in general, because I'm sure people can understand who is this person.
I mean, it's up to you. I suppose there are two. We don't have to name names, and then you won't get any. You shouldn't get any comeback from that. But people who watch and who are aware of the situation will surely recognise them. So it's up to you. Whatever you're comfortable with.
So So this woman that you're talking about is, in my looking as an outsider looking in, I felt like she is pushed to run for the higher office, which is the presidency. But of course, the father, who is the current president of the Philippines, has publicly recognized that his successor should be Bongbong Marcos. So,
Right.
so the weird thing is, you got it perfectly. So she does not necessarily get the endorsement publicly from the father, because the father is thinking about the nation, about the who's well able to take care of the country. So in many instances, he has mentioned that he wants Bongbong Marcos to be his successor because of the way how he see the man, having the integrity and the ethical standard to sort of solve the many issues facing the country. But this lady, she is being pushed to it, and there is also my next question would be, how would she agree to run as vice president of Bongbong Marcos, and would that be a dynamic duo or dynamic team?
I don't think, you see, the sad part is, I think she doesn't have the support of her father, not because, well, they do disagree, they do fight, but it has more to do with the fact that there's still a lot of corruption and negative forces around, and he doesn't feel that she'll be able to deal with that. He's more thinking in terms of a woman in a man's world.
Yes.
And that's a shame. I'm not sure it's accurate. I think with the guy, with Marcos, I think, sorry, I'm using his surname because I haven't quite got my tongue around the name he's known by yet. I think the current president feels that he's battered and bruised emotionally.
He is.
But he has been through this already, so he knows what he's up against. He knows who he's dealing with. But I feel that there will be opportunities for those two to work together. She's never going to be very far from the top office. She just doesn't seem to be stepping into it yet.
There is a talk amongst supporters to pair them together with Bong.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Excuse me, I dropped the card.
Okay, go for it.
I feel that not this time around, but in the future, they might feel that it's in the best interests of the nation to pair them together, because it will stop so much division between the people.
Right.
And they'll make a good team. They'll work really well together.
Right.
And this is a woman who wouldn't be afraid to sit down with Imelda Marcos and learn from her.
Interesting. So what would your card say about the the wealth of the former president being shared to the country as as he wishes from his last will and testament? Because it's
President
been
Marcos.
they've been fighting for that too. I mean, the family has been sort of advocating it so that it will be given to the people finally. And a lot of people are sort of expecting that.
Let's see.
Would this become to fruition soon, or are there still people trying to stop it from happening because it's gonna make the Marcoses, look really good in public?
Yes, it certainly will. There will be times of celebration. I feel that the people who've been trying to prevent this, they're running out of steam. They're running out of energy, and they're running out of whatever it is, ammunition, opportunities. Energy isn't flowing in their direction. It's flowing away from them, and you'll see the kind of happiness that you experience at carnivals or weddings, big celebrations like that.
Oh wow.
I'm hearing dancing in the street. There will be a redistribution of wealth, and people will be dancing in the street. I think that there has been a family feeling, perhaps, that they made terrible mistakes, maybe in terms of who they trusted or who they had around them. They really shouldn't beat themselves up. Things have happened the way they had to happen, sadly, but everything's going to be okay. It's going to turn out okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, because we have the Tower.
The Tower?
A lot of people hate this card. I don't. Because what it's saying is they're going through something that they're finding, or they have found, particularly painful and difficult. So an upheaval of some sort, or some kind of trauma, but actually it was an escape from prison.
Right.
So, on a personal level, when you're in the wrong situation, whatever that might, it could be your job or your relationship or your living arrangement, and you're not really doing much about it. And then the universe, or whatever you want to call it, comes along and gives you a huge kick up the backside and says, that's enough, we're out of here, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. They were released from something that no longer served their own interests or anybody else's. So this time around, things will be built on a much firmer foundation.
Right.
The situation at that point in time, when things went so very wrong for them, couldn't be resolved. It wasn't possible. It was broken. And several things had to play out before that situation could be rectified. And it's like taking the country and the family and putting them back on their feet, back where they belong, so that they can move forward.
It's interesting that you mentioned about putting them back where they belong, and because my next question would it be another Marcos as president of the country? Especially comes 2022 would be the next election.
The cards are sticking together. So this is the guy that we've been focused on, that we're looking at.
Yes.
And he is capable of being a brilliant team player. He needs to keep doing that. He has a tendency sometimes, when he's not seeing things clearly, to go off in a direction of his own, to go off at a tangent. Mm-hmm. He has to keep everybody on board. He needn't, excuse me, now I understand the problem. He sacrifices all of his own time and energy because the past has taught him not to trust. So he's afraid to delegate.
Right.
The more a team gathers around him that he can trust, so he's not in the right frame of mind yet. If it happened now, if there was an election now, my advice to him would be not to run for office. He's not quite ready. Now is not the right time.
When you say now, as in today, and as in
so I know you're saying the election takes place in 22.
22.
What I'm saying is that he's not in the right frame of mind at this point in time. He's not quite there. He's not quite ready. I feel he needs time to heal from the past. He needs to build. He needs to build the team of people around him who will work with him. He has friends and associates, but he needs to extend that circle and extend that trust.
So you're talking about a perhaps in the world a political machine or a political party that should help him out with his.
Well, I feel I have no idea whether he has his own political party at the moment, but that's what he needs. He needs to handpick the people he has around him, but he also needs to learn to trust.
Right.
I think he has a very creative mind. You see, there has been so much dishonesty around him that I feel it's almost made him a little manipulative himself at times, because that's what he's had to do in order to survive.
Right.
Is he in a relationship?
Oh, he's married.
Right.
He's married with 3 kids.
That's a real soul connection. But I do feel that he was he separated from his parents at any point when he was growing up?
Gosh. I guess you know the answers to that when I laughed. But that is so true, because as a young person, his family, the former president and Imelda, in their desire to keep them away from bad thing happening to them and being kidnapped and what have you, they sent them to study for their own protection. They sent them to study in England as a young boy, as he was growing up.
And that has left an emotional pain. It's not that he heavily criticizes them for sending him away.
Mm-hmm.
It's the isolation and the loneliness he felt, and also the great fear of what might happen to them while he wasn't there.
But how should he resolve that?
I think he just has some self-healing to do. Somebody needs to send him to a holistic therapist.
And how do you expect that self-healing to do? Like when my mom died and I reached out to you and you helped me with my healing, and you helped me with I forget the thing that you gave me as an earth meditation something, and that helped me a lot. How do you suggest, if in case let's just say hypothetically that he might eventually come across our video and listen to your suggestion, what would be your advice?
I would certainly be prepared to do a healing session with him. But I'm not trying to sell my services here, because you will have many excellent healers in the Philippines.
Yes.
But I feel that we need somebody who deals with emotional trauma. And I'd like to add, in case he ever does hear this, that this is far from a criticism or a judgment. We all bear these scars, and we don't realize how deeply those emotions are buried until something triggers them.
But I think from an outsider looking into the event of what happened to the family, I would have thought they were extremely traumatized when they were thrown out of the presidential palace in 1986, when in fact it was his father who won the presidency, but because some foreign entity government wanted to kick them out, so that they were forced out of it. And I'm sure that life in exile must have traumatized him. He was in his 20s at the time.
Yes, something has interfered with his ability to trust, but I do feel it had a lot to do with the time he spent away from them, in terms of he'd been with loved ones and suddenly he was with strangers and he didn't know who he could trust. I think that's where that ability was damaged. This is interesting. He can be impulsive. Sometimes he goes charging into situations without looking where he's going first, you know, and then he might well come unstuck because he didn't have a B plan. I'm talking more about his personal life. Obviously, as far as his political life is, he has advisors. But here's the interesting thing, because I think he will win the next election. And I think he will win the next election.
Right.
I think he will be president. And it's a homecoming. There's a sense of completion. It has to happen. It has to happen that way.
You're giving me goosebumps. I mean, go ahead.
It will happen because, it will happen because there will be a meeting that will take place. Something is going to change financially. It seems as though someone is going to offer the Marcos family an opportunity to come to an agreement about an idea they have, and it secures the long-term financial security of the nation. And he's thinking prudently at this point, and he sees that as an opportunity he can take and run with all the way across the finishing line, because this agreement will be so popular with the people. There'll never be a better time for him to run for office.
Right, that is so interesting. I'm almost speechless when I almost forget all the questions I have lined up in my head.
You know, the trouble is, we're going to have to wait until 2022 to find out whether or not I was right.
Yeah. You mentioned about I completely forgot it. It'll come back to me. So at this point in time, you did mention that you do channeling as well.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of what I've been telling you has been coming through clairvoyantly. It's not all from the cards.
I'm just wondering, because the former president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos, is somebody who is known to be extremely spiritual.
Right.
And he wrote beautiful prayers for the nation, which has almost been forgotten, and up until, you know, the time now that when people like me are sharing it online. And I wonder, without scaring off our audience or something, if you sort of can channel some of his thoughts or his messages for the nation.
That scares me, channeling channeling an ex-president. I can see a gold-coloured medal on a red ribbon, and it seems to be hung on perhaps a monument or a structure of some sort that is dedicated to the nation or to the Filipino people.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Doesn't matter if it doesn't.
It does. I have two interpretations for that, but I'm not going to say that for now.
Right. But he's pointing to it. He's pointing it out to me. So I don't know whether it's not in its rightful place, or whether he's pleased that it is in its rightful place. But I feel that there's something he's not happy about there. There's a question mark. Did they used to spend a lot of time near the ocean as a family?
Yes, definitely, because that's the wife, Imelda, grew up in an island, and they grew up in a place near the sea.
In a fishing community?
Yes.
Yes. But I have an image of a small boy playing at the water's edge with a toy boat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting that these were very, very happy times.
Right.
But she, of course, was wonderful at appealing to the hearts and minds of ordinary people.
You got it perfectly.
And when they spent time near the ocean, he's saying it gave her ample opportunity to connect with her own kind.
Right.
And I feel tears there because she really feels for her people, but there was so much love for her. They felt that she understood them and she would always help them.
Yes.
He's saying he couldn't have got through it without her.
My God. Yeah.
She was the other half of him. They were a team.
You were spot on.
He couldn't have done it on his own.
Yes.
His son was always super sensitive, even as a child.
Mhm.
He would take, it's like he picked up when somebody didn't like him, or if people were saying they were doing something for this reason, he could feel it if they were actually doing it for that reason.
Right.
So his son was vulnerable in that way.
Mhm.
And he didn't want to take that away from, he didn't want to interfere with that sensitivity. He didn't want to make him hard.
Yeah.
But what saddens him sometimes is that his son still has some bitterness and resentment.
Right.
When people have hurt him, he doesn't forget that easily.
Right.
But that's because inside he's still hurting somewhere.
Right.
There are still wounds to be healed.
I just had a download now as you just made those descriptions, okay, because I thought like collectively the nation is sort of in the same personality.
Yes, and he's saying he is still the father of the nation, energetically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
until these differences are resolved and somebody is in a position of power that has the best interests of the nation at heart. It's almost as though he's still holding office. He's still holding that space. He's still looking out for the people of the Philippines.
Yes, it's so fantastic that you gave that kind of description, because what happened in 1986, Ferdinand Marcos was the most powerful person in not only in the Philippines, but in the whole world, having been the signatory to lots of gold wealth. And in 1986, when there was a mass gathering of people, in which he could have done a Tiananmen Square kind of instruction to his military, but he decided not to do that because he doesn't want any bloodshed, or especially fighting his own people. And instead of dispersing them and by hook or by crook, or using power and just shoot them, what have you, even with the suggestion of another person on his circle of sending out a helicopter money so that people would run away and grab those money and all that. He did none of those and decided just to say, if you need to disperse them, just disperse them peacefully. And instead of fighting those people who are betraying him, he actually decided to give up power, even sacrificing his own honor and his family's safety.
Yes, because he knew that there would eventually be bloodshed.
And that has been avoided. That's why it was called the bloodless revolution, so to speak. But the fact is,
it was the only peaceful course of action that he could take. It was his only option at that time.
Yeah.
He is very much influencing affairs. He couldn't have been anywhere else because she really still holds a lot of power, and for that reason there are some people whose intentions towards her aren't good. So he does a lot to protect her and his son.
So let me ask you a question regarding the you tell me if our time is up, if you want me to stop, if you might be tired.
Shall we go another 10-15 minutes? Is that
all right,
okay?
sure. Just a question going back to 1986, what your tarot card would tell us, whether was there a bloodshed at that time or not?
What I'm hearing is there was violence, but I don't feel it was on a large scale.
That's correct.
I think this was maybe behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Yes.
Certain factions of people, quite small, comparatively speaking, but very, very powerful.
Right.
Or with access to lots of resources, contacts.
Yes.
I'm not getting anything more from the cards than that, really. But I feel that there were also teams of people working to try to ensure that things didn't get out of hand, and also to make sure that the family were protected and safe.
Right.
They had some very powerful people working behind the scenes on their behalf, moving obstacles. And I feel that these were, he's telling me off for using the word outsiders, people not native to the Philippines then.
That's so true. You're so spot on. Oh my God, that's crazy.
They were at least in a situation where they could be in control of their own domain, where they had a safe and secure place, like a sanctuary.
Right. So in 1986, when this so-called, I call it manufactured revolution, to be honest, but history has sweetened it up, as they say. History is written with the victors. But
yeah.
The palace, which is this history, bit of the history has not really been told the people, but it was a coup d'état, and the group, as you mentioned, the small group that's doing the coup d'état, they have, I'm not sure whether it's the local military or the foreign outsider military who shoot or bombarded the palace, the presidential palace, with bullets and all that, and that sort of made his decision to sort of that this is not the way forward, that he still wanted it. It's a peaceful resolution from all those.
Yeah. Have you ever walked into a situation where there's been unrest or violence is about to break out and used your energy to calm it?
Yes, many times over. I do that a lot.
Yeah. That's the feeling I'm getting from Ferdinand Marcos, that from where he is now, he is still able to use his energy in that way. Right. I stopped, I believe, an incident getting out of hand on the very first day of the Occupy protests in London. And the police were using the kettling technique to squeeze people, and we were in front of St. Paul's Cathedral. And it was really starting to get out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I just called in all the energy I could, all the assistance I could. And the crowd started to calm. And it's not a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, because all of us has the power to do that.
Yeah. And he's telling me I'm stating the obvious. But yes, he's still able to use his energy to calm difficult situations and to protect those he loves.
Right. Perhaps my last sort of question or statement is that, is there anything else that you're feeling energetically, or would you do a last reading of your card and would sort of tell us what is going on, or what should we expecting, or what's the future like? I mean, see how you answer that. Depends, I mean, if you like telling the future or not, but it's up to you really to, you know, give us some energetic reading.
Let me have a look. Change is coming from within and from without.
Okay.
The world is improving steadily, slowly, and it feels like a chicken and egg situation. I can't quite tell which has to come first, but one triggers the other.
Okay.
Tell me about the physical geography of the Philippines.
Well,
Because I'm seeing perhaps a new resource, but it seems to be in a mountainous region.
yeah, there's lots of mountains there. I wonder why you're asking that, and I wonder why you mentioned resource.
Because I feel there are natural resources that have yet to be discovered. But energetically, it's like I'm seeing fairy type beings. But this beautiful childish energy. I think it may be that these mountainous regions are a great place for people to heal. And that will be discovered and become very attractive to tourists. It feels like the videos I've seen about Peru.
Oh, God.
But on the ground, I feel that the Filipino people, do you know how we have all these amazing inventions and new technologies that have been patented and stolen from people? That's going to change. You have a lot of brilliant creative minds in the Philippines, and it's like now they're unfettered. Over the course of the coming months and the next 2 or 3 years, it's as though they're being given free rein. Yeah?
Sure.
This is advice I would give to somebody sitting in front of me, but this card, so it's a version of the magician. But for me, what this is saying is, I feel people, so whenever the Filipino people feel confused, all they have to do is try and hold on to a shared vision of the future. In other words, where do they want to be? Where do they want their country to be 10 years from now? What do they want to be doing, and what kind of people do they want to be doing it with?
Right.
It's about how they interact with each other, but also about how they interact with the outside world. So I know that they are in many ways tired of keeping the peace. It's more of an armed truce. But at the same time, they don't want to let bitterness make them derisive and unwilling to interact with friendly people outside of their own nation. There are some good relationships to be built.
Right. Can you check energetically if there's a lot of gold in the Philippines hidden?
Not getting an answer to that. There are precious things. I'm seeing more precious stones than I am gold. I'm not saying it's not there, but it's almost as though they want to keep it hidden.
You were so spot on, you know why? Because just before I answered the question, I got an answer in my thought that says you're not meant to ask this question. It's meant to be protected.
There you are. So that stopped us in our tracks.
And you just answered it like the way I'm thinking it. And then, of course, you mentioned about the resources, natural resources and all that. It's weird. It's crazy because although you have not verbalized it the way it is, but there's actually plenty of new sort of oil. It's not an oil, but it's, I'm not gonna mention it just now, but there's a new sort of oil that could potentially change the whole world, and using that energy of it's not an oil, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna mention the mineral, but it's something that would power up cars and planes and everything in a very clean way.
But I also feel, does it have healing properties, Francis?
That I don't know, but I believe it has. That's the kind of energy I'm getting too.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not gonna pollute the environment, obviously that would be a healing properties to it.
Yes, I feel that it has the potential to be used in many ways, as you've already, but perhaps to make something that aids in healing. But what I also see a lot of is precious or semi-precious gems, like rose quartz, emeralds I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one part of the observation or interpretation I've got from what you mentioned, but you did mention a lot of those other stones and all that, and then I know that for a fact that there's loads, and then you mentioned about mountains, about a healing mountain. In fact, there is a mountain in the Philippines that is considered really sacred. They're not well known, but they're completely healing and sacred, and almost something is hidden there, and people have been using it even before the arrival of the Catholic religion. And when the Catholic religion, they have made that Catholicized in essence, using the sort of if I may use the word pagan way of clearing or healing. The Catholic people have used it in that sense. In fact, one of the places they have is called Kamay ni Jesus, which is in Quezon, and of course there's the Mount Apo and Mount Makiling, both of which are extremely powerful. I mean, it's all over the Philippines, being 7,000 and 700. It has changed now because of the discovery. It used to be 7,107, but it's more than that now because of new phenomenon of another place rising out of the sea, and that's where this thing that's not an oil that I mentioned to you, it's a liquid that's coming out that will be used in the future for clean energy, and that is why it's being fought out, and that was actually one of the main reasons why the family was sort of destroyed, because they sort of hold the in a world of copyrights and all these things, they sort of hold that legal paper to use that for potentially for all of humanity. The Philippines is you asked about the strategic location of the Philippines. It's sort of in the middle of the east and the west. So if you have the Hawaii over here, and you have the Philippines over here in the Pacific, so then you have the west over here and the east over here. You have the west people coming through the Philippines. The Philippines sort of a gateway to enter the east, before the advent of planes and what have you. So the Philippines is sort of the place where people stop before their journey to go to Vietnam, what have you. And so because of what happened, the West and the East have been trading from Roman time, and they've been paying the East, especially the Philippines, as an entry point to the East, hundreds and hundreds of gold. So we're talking about more than 10,000 years of trading. And so what happens is the East gold has been transferred to the West, most of it concentrated in the Philippines, and that's the kind of payment they have done. And so when that happens over almost 10,000 years, and the West, Europe especially, they're very anal about their recording, so they know the movement of pretty much everything. They know when somebody's birth or death, and especially gold. So they realize that this the gold that they run out. So in 1561, when Magellan arrived, the West has run out of gold, so they started introducing silver as money. So the silver has been shipped as well to that kind of world. So basically the Philippines has been concentrated in that. And then of course the West, knowing that they wanted to get that gold back, so they created the Japanese imperial family and Yamashita as a leader for the Second World War, so that they can get the gold back from the east back to the west in one swoop of a war. But they failed in it, and most of those gold, unfortunately or fortunately, added to the collection of gold in the Philippines. So when George Bush Jr., the former president of the USA, was asked who's the richest country in the world, he laughed and said, well, it's the Philippines. And obviously they know the history. And of course, this information are, the energy of those golds are, most of those are still untapped, because obviously there are some spiritual energy, making sure that they are protected. We're not talking about only gold, but the liquid gold or liquid oil as well, all that. That's why when you mentioned about that, and I felt like, oh my God, you actually spot on, except that you are not allowed to say those.
I feel as though the Philippines has been a crossroads.
Exactly.
As you've just described it. And that's interesting, because until I moved into this house almost 2 years ago, for years and years, every house I moved to was on a crossroads where 4 roads or 4 streets met.
Yes.
And they felt to me as though they would be crossing places in the old days, people going to markets and that kind of thing. So there was an awful lot of people passing through. And my local pub was right on a corner of one of these crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be nights when you went in there and you felt this disconnect, as though everybody was strangers to each other. I actually was experiencing a psychic attack, and in a dream I felt somebody trying to pull me to the other side of that crossroads. And it was an area I'd lived before and did not want to go back to. With what you've told me about the Philippines is, I feel that the energy is so vital in the mountains, because there has been so many people passing through, such a variety of energies, people not staying, but just kind of using the place to get from A to B, that the energy at ground level is muddy. It's much purer when you go into the mountains.
Well, we have certainly a very interesting conversation, and thank you very much for all of those. And I mean, without you mentioning names, but every single thing you're telling me are spot on and interesting. So I have to interpret and put names on some of it, but I'm sure our audience would understand what we're talking about. And so, before I ask you for any parting words or any messages that you have, or you might be getting again, or some important channeling information that you might be getting at this point, in case somebody would like to connect with you, would you be willing to give your number now publicly, or how best to contact you?
Certainly, my mobile number, or cell phone as you would probably call it.
That's England, yeah? So just give us the international code as well.
That would be
65, I think.
44.
Oh, is it? Yeah, this is 44.
So then it would be 7397 851 759. You can email me at rosamonti56@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Rosa Montague. I have a business page on there by that name. I have another group called Jewel of the North, and you can Google me. I have my own business page on there. If you look for Rosa Montague in the category of psychics and clairvoyance, it should come up. When I'm finished doing a one-to-one reading, as you may remember, Francis, I always
before you continue, can I interrupt you? I'm so sorry that I'm interrupting you. You just give me your number again, so I could put it in your name in case for people to sort of get that. So it's 447.
Yeah, 447 937 851 759. I think sometimes I get that 7397 the wrong way around. 07. I'm nearly sure it's 07937. But in any case, it is.
Say it again. 07 447 937.
Yeah. 851 759.
Okay, I'm gonna put it now in your name. So if that is a correct one, can you see that on the screen?
Yeah, I think I would have to go away to. But if people find me on Facebook or they've got that email address, I always put an availability post up every week or 10 days or so, and my number's on there. Or it should also come up on my Google business page.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So you
thank
can.
you for that.
When I interrupted you, you were about to say something.
At the end of a reading,
Yes.
I usually pull a card. I don't use them to read with. I just pull one at the end, and this is the Goddess Guidance Oracle cards, Doreen Virtue, and it almost always reiterates what we've been talking about.
Right.
So, since this is a reading about the whole of the Philippines, I thought it would be interesting just to see how that would work. And we have Irene.
Can you put it in the screen? I cannot see it on the screen. Okay. That's weird. That's so interesting. Oh my god.
Her message, and people can actually go and look up this pack of cards online. Go to a website that gives you the meanings. And her message is peace. There is peace. There is no need to worry, as everything is working out beautifully. But if people want to look that up online, there'll be a deeper meaning. I would just like to say, Francis, that if I have offended any Filipinos by my bluntness, then my apologies. It was just about giving you the picture that I saw as the information was given to me, and hopefully it will give some clarity or be of help to those who want to watch it.
Yes, and I would like to say also to the audience that we don't mean any ill intention when we did this video. We just wanted to, well, I personally just wanted to sort of have a reading from an energetic level of a very sort of a very 3D political landscape, basically. And I thank you very much for your time, and we went beyond the time that you allotted me, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
You're very welcome. It's been a real pleasure. But we're going to do a series of videos, aren't we?
Yes, we will do, and regarding a potential book that we will write together, but I'm gonna discuss that with you. So for now, I'm gonna post this. So any last word, or we're okay from here on?
Just love to everybody. Lots of positive energy your way, and to anybody who watches.